Now that we have our workflow configured, we tested it, and it works, we can provide it with some validations. For example, dates. One may be that the start date of the vacation period is not earlier than the date on which the request is made. Another may be that the end date of the requested vacation period is not earlier than the start date of the same period. Let's see how we are going to do it. My recommendation is to clone our current process so that we can have both working simultaneously. We are going to go through our initial process, we clone it, and we have to give it a name. In the new process, we have to add a new task. This will be to report the error that the start date of the requested period is before the date on which we are loading the form. We assign as candidate to the default group. And now we are going to add a second task, which is going to inform the second validation that the end date of the requested period could not be earlier than the start date. We are going to give it a name, a description, and a code. Let's not forget to add the default group as a candidate of the task. Now we are going to back to editing the process and go back to working with the diagram tool. What we are going to do is modify our current workflow to add the new nodes. We are also going to add two new conditions. We unite everything with arrows, and we start with the logic. In the JQ command console, what we are going to do is build our first statement. What we have to do is to validate that the date entered by the user as the beginning of the vacation period is after the current date. How we are going to do it? By evaluating it precisely with today's date in ISO format. We are going to truncate only to show the digit of the year, month, and days. We copy it and paste it into the condition box. In the case of no, what we are going to do is to evaluate that the date entered as the beginning of the period is greater than the date on which the request is loaded. If the condition not occurs, what we are going to do is inform the user through the node of the error message, and the user will have to correct the entered date. Now, for the second condition, what we are going to do is evaluate that the start date of the period is not later than the end date. How is that going to be? With the following sentence. In the case of no, if the condition the start date is after the end date is met, it will be reported through the corresponding node and the user will have to correct the date. As we can see, our workflow has no problems. We can save it. And also save the process. Let's not forget to publish it. And now we can do a test. We start the process, provide our information. Let's get a date wrong on purpose. Let's see what happens. We receive an error indicating that the start date of the period is before the date on which we are completing the form. Here, we have the option to load it again. We are now going to load a correct start date, but we are going to put an end date wrong, so it gives us the error notification of the second condition. Here we have where it indicates us that the end date is before the start date. Now, we are going to complete it with the correct dates, and we see that the workflow advances. We will also try to reject it, so that the reason for the rejection is transferred to the notification. In this video tutorial, we learned how to make a workflow serverless with our diagram tool. We gave it a form input, a decision instant, and a notification. Then we add date validations to make our process more powerful. I'm Hector, and I help Awakened developers automate complex processes with KuFlow, a workflow as code tool that streamlines tasks involving humans and machines. Let boring things do themselves, and your effort will go to what is important. For more examples, visit our documentation. Or if you have questions, you can contact me through any of our social networks.